Hello, everyone. I'm Jonna Ward, and I'm the CEO of the Seattle Public Library Foundation. And I want to welcome you to our virtual State of the Library and Foundation. I'm joined by Marcellus Turner, our Executive Director and Chief Librarian of the Seattle Public Library. So first off, I couldn't start this without saying thank you to you as donors. You are the folks that make so much special around our library. And you've done so much for us, and we want to share with you what we have been able to do with the resources from donors. Before we get started with that, though, I want to share just a couple Zoom tips. Just so you know, everyone is muted. And if you're wanting to chat, there's a bar near the bottom. And if you don't see the bar, you just hover your mouse over the screen and you will be able to get this bar pops up. And so by chatting, you can talk to fellow attendees, or you can even just share with presenters. And also, if you have any technical difficulties, you can reach foundation staff at SPLF Foundation. And then there's also a Q&A icon. So if you have any questions for the panelists, you can actually post questions there, and we'll do our best to ensure that we answer them if we possibly can. Now, this recording is going to be shared, and so you won't be seen on the video, just those of us talking, but there's going to be a button that pops up and asks for your consent to record. And you need to say yes to that if you want to stay on and continue with the webinar. So I'm just going to go ahead and press mine here, and we can get started. And I hope you'll do the same as well. So thank you for joining us. Again, welcome. And I'm Jonna Ward, and I'm the CEO of the Library Foundation. And I hope you can see you're joined by Marcellus Turner, our Executive Director and Chief Librarian of the Seattle Public Library. Now, by today, you should have received in your mail a copy of our report to donors for 2019. And this event is designed to really try to bring that report to donors to life. And so it's meant to give you an update on the foundation and the library as well. So we'll be covering things like past successes. We'll showcase program impact, really as it's perceived by the beneficiaries and those who are benefiting from the programs. And we're going to share some current and future work. And I'd really like you to look for three things. I want you to look for how the library centers equity in everything it does, and how community partnerships guide and make our library's work really incredibly special, and how books do remain central to the library's role. But today, our library is so much more. So be watching for those three things. Now, some of you who know me and we've had a chance to talk, you might remember my library story, but I have two children, and they both prefer different branches, one like Greenwood, one like Broadview. And, when they were young, we would go from one branch to the other. And I fell in that camp of being the really lucky mother who could be there. I had a flexible job. I had a good job. I had a reliable transportation. A husband helped with parenting duties. And of course, it was easy for me to communicate with library staff. So what this did for me is it really allowed my kids to get the most out of the library. And they really did. They're both readers. I'm thrilled for that. And I also knew that books and knowledge were important to helping them be successful and achieve their dreams. So when I think about my own experience, and then think about what the library and foundation are doing every single day, I want every mother, father, caregiver to really be able to have these same opportunities so they can be inspired and have children who are ready to go out and face the world. Because libraries, as we know, provide access that create opportunities. And, my story is one of privilege. It was easy for me to make it work. And many families don't have those same privileges. Whether it's facing a language barrier or having multiple jobs and needing to use public transit, or certainly not being able to purchase books to have your own home library or afford summer camps. And of course, there's the cost of internet. All of those things come in to impact the role libraries can have on families' lives and their barriers that we are trying to overcome. Now, we have, kind of to recap 2019, last year was kind of an amazing year. The foundation was able to promise and fulfill a commitment to $4.5 million of grants and in-kind support for programmatic work, books, materials, you name it, programming, of course. And because of so many of you, we had a record number of contributions. It was a very, very good year. And we had so much momentum going into the beginning of 2020, and we'd planned a big fundraising event in the spring. And of course, COVID hits, and like, here we are. But even though we had to cancel that fundraising lunch, we still had a successful spring campaign, and we want to thank you for that. Because what this really is doing, it has allowed us to continue our commitments to the library. Last year, we funded about 40 different programs or initiatives. And one big change that we're making this year is we could see really quickly that library services were going to need to change and be approached differently. So what we were able to do is we were able to unbind the library from all of those grants. And unless there's donor dollars restricted to certain purposes, we've really been able to broaden out and expand the flexibility so that the library has the funding it needs to make some real big changes in this time of COVID. And on top of that, we were able to do one other thing. We were able to commit an additional $250,000 to help the library, because right from the get-go, it was apparent there were going to be some different needs. So our commitment is to help the library continue its commitment to equity, to supporting the community for employment opportunities, economic recovery, and of course, education. And so with that, I would like to introduce our fearless leader, Marcellus Turner, to talk about the library.
So thank you much, Jana. It is really good to be here with you today. And I'm really excited about several things, and many of them you touched upon in your presentation. But first and foremost, I want to do two things. First of all, I want to hold up my report to donors. I actually have a show and tell with me. So I was doing it as just a review of some of the many great things that we were doing over the past year that you were able to highlight for us. And if you haven't read it, go ahead and read it, because it is a lot of information in there and really speaks to the work of the libraries now. But that was the first thing I wanted to do. And the second thing I wanted to do was join you in thanking our donors for the support that they give to us. There are 700 colleagues that I work with here at the library, and all of us are so appreciative of the work of the donors, because it's not just the money that you give us to address equity and do the work that we do, but it's also the confidence and courage that you instill in us, because you're saying pretty much with the monies that you give to us that you believe in us and that you believe in the work that we do and that you believe that we can help deliver it. So it's not just the thank you for the dollars, but it is the thank you for the belief in the library. And we're so happy to deliver on that for you. So all of that being said, we had a really great 2019, and that work that we've done in 2019 was highlighted in an application that we made to Library Journal and Gale Cengage for Library of the Year. Now, a Library of the Year suggests that it's just one year that they are focusing on, and we understand that, but I really want all of you to know that we've been doing this work centering equity for 6+ years. The staff who work here have been dedicated to this work for quite a bit of time. So all of that work is paid off with the culmination of an award for 2020's Library of the Year, and we actually won. And we are so excited about that. And yes, thank you, Jana, our built-in sound system. But we're excited about that because we won because of the work that we're doing in equity. And this award is the industry leader. It is like I don't watch award shows, but let's say it's like the Grammys or it's like the Emmys. It is really big for a library system to win that. In 28 years of this award, this is the first time that we've won. And so we're really excited about that. And we won because of the work that we're doing in equity. And it's not just what we do in our community, but it's also, is this work that can be replicated by another library system? They are really interested in programs that can be transferred to other systems if they wish to do this work. And we are excited that the work that we do does that. We are excited because this staff has been doing this work for so many years and it just comes naturally to us now. And so I want to talk a little bit about what that means for us. When we talk about centering equity, it has so many components to it, but what first and foremost it does, it means is that we're prioritizing our audiences. It means that we're looking at factors that weigh into why we should serve a particular community. It can include things like race, demographics, location of where you live. All of those play into centering equity because what we're trying to do is we're trying to bring services to a community and also take an opportunity or give an opportunity to different communities to highlight their needs and ask the library, how can we help them with it? So we're really excited about that. The other key component of centering equity means that we have to stop and listen to the audiences. And that is something that we have started excelling at, and I'm so proud of it. Libraries traditionally have been the type where we would go out in the community and say, let me show you what we can do. But now, when you talk about centering equity and the voices of the community, what you're actually saying is, hey, I'm coming out to your community and I'm going to listen to you and see what it is you would like to share. And so we have mastered that. I'm so proud of staff because sometimes we're not always ready to go out in the community, but staff have stepped up, hone their networking skills, comfortable, and going out and saying, you tell me what you need to do. So it really means that we listen to our community. And then the third component of that means that once we've prioritized our audiences and listened to the community, we then look for ways to work with them. We've listened to what they want, they're telling us their needs, and we say, hey, we can do this, or we can support you in this way, or we may not be able to do this, but I can connect you with someone who can do that. So those three components of centering equity is the work that we've been mastering and building upon and honing those skills over the last couple of years, and we're really excited about that. But once we've done all of that and started thinking about how we can partner with our communities, there are ways that we go about doing that. One of them is that we co-design our programs with them. Instead of our saying, let's do a program, we say, what program would you like to see? Or what program do you need in your community? And we have many examples of that, and I'll just share one of them with you, which is our working with the Somali community to provide computer training and access to our Somali community. There was a need there, and the library stepped in and said, this is your need, we can help. So we arranged to build an instruction program, provide computers and access, and allow them to help us design the classes for what they needed to learn. And that was so exciting for us. So a component of it is co-design of our programs. The other thing that we do is we share our staff and expertise. Sometimes they just want to know how to do something. And so we'll make ourselves available to do that. Staff, the 700 ambassadors that I work with here at the library, they have so many skills, so many degrees, so many opportunities and life experiences that we can share with the community. And we're really excited to do that. So sometimes it's just a matter of someone going out and talking to someone and saying, hey, let me show you how to do that. And so we're really excited about that. The other thing that we do is we share our resources. We share our spaces. Sometimes they need a place to meet, and our meeting rooms are available for meetings. They also sometimes need a venue for a program or an event, and we can do that as well. And of course, we offer technology too, because many of our community members need support technologically. And so we're happy to do that through access to our computers, through our classrooms, and also through our Wi-Fi technology. And I want to back up and say one more thing too that I think is really, really key to talking about our communities, and that our 700 staff live in these communities, and many times they are a part of these communities that we're working with. So sometimes our leads into the community are just that. A staff member will say, hey, this is my community. Let me tell you what we need, and we go from there. So just to continue on with this, one of the things that I did talk about was the Wi-Fi hotspots. And Wi-Fi hotspots, I know people hate hearing this, but it's the most circulated item in our collection. You would think it would be one of our books, but that is the one item that is on hold for all time, our Wi-Fi hotspots. And so over the course of last year, we made 2.5 million public computer and Wi-Fi connections for the community. But one of the ways that since COVID hit is that we closed our libraries. And when we closed our libraries, that closed access to our computers. But we were able to turn around and working with the foundation through some of their grants, able to secure some additional hotspots that we were able to put out in the community for people to use and to work with our partners so that they can have access to them. And let me tell you, they really are needed because you may not know this, but one of the other things that we've been doing since COVID closure is we've opened up 5 of our libraries for restroom use. And on weekends, sometimes I go and visit the libraries just to see how the staff is doing and seeing what traffic is like. And every time I go to Beacon Hill Library or every time I go to Capitol Hill Library, there is someone standing outside the library with their own laptop or their own personal device using the Wi-Fi that is bleeding from the building. So we are just really excited to make those connections because it shows the need that is out there in the community. So I just shared with you that we've, working with the foundation, we were able to secure some additional hotspots. We purchased 75 right off the bat, and we're looking to get a few more up to 125. So thank you, foundation, for helping us with that. Some of the places that we put them are with Solid Ground, the Low Income Housing Institute, COVID-19 mutual aid, and we put some in the tiny home villages serving the insecurely housed. So we're really, really excited about the opportunities to share technology with the communities during this period of need. One of the other things that we've been working on is how we pivot our programs. Now, we are traditionally physical location based, and over the last few years, we've been transitioning to a virtual services, but COVID-19 really pushed us to start thinking about how do we turn our programs into virtual programs, and we've been doing great work with that, and I'm just really proud of the staff who's been doing this. Our youth and family staff, the children's and teen librarians, and the staff who work in those departments have created virtual storytime programs for the public. And this morning I just sat and watched several of them, and it's great to see the program because you get caught up in the story, but it's also great to watch the staff doing this because it's a new medium for some of us. And so working in that medium is just really great, and they've taken to it so well. So that's one of the things that you're looking at. It's also summer, and with summer comes summer of learning. And so we're rolling out that program and really excited about the work that's occurring there. As you know, one of the main components of that program is that we provide books to children as they progress through the program. And so we're really, really excited about that because so many of our kids who participate in our summer reading programs do not have books at home. And so giving them a book that A, appropriate for their age, and then B, that they get to choose as opposed to our saying, here's a book you might like, is really exciting because their eyes get so big when they have a chance to choose their own books. So we're really excited about that. Some of the other things, and I'm turning to the other side because I can only put so much on my left, is that one of the reasons that we do this program is that we're also trying to address the summer slide. As you know, and I guess the summer slide may be a little bit longer since schools ended a bit earlier this year, but one of the things that occurs during the summer is that as kids are out of school, sometimes the learning that they have received over the past year slips a little bit. And one of the things that we try to do as the informal learning partner is to ensure that that slide is very minimal and in areas where we can address it. So one of the things that our virtual programming is trying to do is trying to make sure that the summer slide is just a little bit of a slip, and if at all, because we really want kids to be prepared for when they return to school. And then finally, the last area that I wanted to talk about is what we've been doing with the actual physical materials. Believe it or not, since we've been closed, about 2 million items are locked away in our libraries. And those are materials that people want access to. And because we could not make them available, one of the things that we did is we really ramped up our virtual and electronic resources and materials. So the collection staff and team went right into heavy duty mode, buying additional electronic materials, getting additional licenses for us so that we can do that. We also made an electronic card available so that people could check out those items. Most of us carried the card that allowed us to do the physical collection, but some of our citizens and residents didn't even have that card. And so we made an electronic card available, and we had over 11,000 patrons sign up for that digital card, which allows them to have access to those materials. It's those 11,000 staff plus all of us who had the other card that pushed us to about a 30% increase of circulation of electronic materials since this time last year. So we're really, really excited about what we've been able to do, and hats off to the staff that was able to do so. So with that, I'd really like to close this section of the luncheon. And just again, thank you so much for the work that you do and support that you give to the library on behalf of serving the patrons. We're really excited about it. They're excited about what we can do with that. And so it just makes for a wonderful job as chief librarian.
So, MT, I haven't seen you now for what, 17 weeks about that.
Yes.
But rumor has it that there was a Boy Scout that just interviewed you. Is that true? And can you
That
share more about the Boy Scout interview?
That is so true. And it was funny because just the other day I was talking with another friend and I said, I used to be a Boy Scout back and then I couldn't remember what grade you are when you're a Boy Scout, but I think it's around third or fourth grade. And just having a innocent conversation. And then I get to my phone to check my emails and there's a request to be interviewed by a young man here in Seattle who was trying for his citizenship badge. And as a part of it, they had to interview a government official, and he wanted to interview me about what we were. Well, he actually said, I want to know when the libraries are going to be open. But he wanted to talk with me about that. And so we had a great little time. And he let me know that on the last day, March 13th, when we were open to the public, he visited his local library, and there were so many people there and so many books being checked out that he said he stood in line for 5 minutes. And I know that was a long time, but he was happy to do that, but he was really wanting to see when we would be open again.
So I just can't imagine. I was in the library and picked up some things on the 13th, that last day, and it was festive in a weird sort of way.
Oh,
Um,
gosh.
but then I've seen pictures of the shelves that are just bare in some of the branches. Is that pretty much how many of them look?
They do look like that. I've been in several of them, and they do look like that. And it's very interesting because the day we closed, we were assuming we were going to come back in the library the next day. So we sort of left the building like you do going to bed at night, saying, "I'll wash the dishes in the morning." And so we just assumed we'd get in and put books back on the shelves the next day. But it is like that. We've been heavily hit by readers in this city. In fact, 415,000 items are currently checked out right now. And so one of the things is getting us back in the libraries to check them back in so that we can make them available. But yes, it was a crazy day that day. And you just had to have been in one of the libraries to really see how much people love their library.
I just try to visualize what 400,000 plus books and materials look like. It would be, piles, piles and piles, wouldn't it?
We anticipate that. We really do. But you know what? It'll give us a chance to see familiar books coming back in. I can't even imagine working that day because every time a book would come in, I would look at it and say, I should add this to my reading list. So I know it will be a long day for those staff working to get the books checked in.
Well, there are a whole lot of people who have huge piles of materials that are ready to bring them back, but one thought, just in terms of all of that, when you think about, um, there have been really lovely, lovely messages that have come in with many of our donations, and one gentleman just is like, the library is my lifeline. And I think that with COVID, with Black Lives Matter, with all the things that are happening in our world right now, I absolutely believe that we will come out of this in a library renaissance, that people who maybe took us for granted or hadn't used the library and suddenly discovered digital materials, people who have been using the computers and just are missing those resources, but more importantly, just what libraries mean as a trusted governmental agency. It is the most trusted resource and government entity in the city. And, the library is doing great work, and thank you for that.
Thank you. I feel the same way, and I believe in libraries and what they do. And this is just another time when um, the COVID-19 will show us just what libraries mean to our public.
You
Yeah.
bet. All right. Well, thanks.
Thank you.
One program I'm especially proud of is our Global Reading Challenge. And you might have read about this in the report to donors. This is a program the foundation has been funding since it started. We're on to year 26. And my colleague, Brian Lawrence, took some time to visit with school librarian J.K. Burwell and a star student from Graham Hill Elementary. And they will be telling you more about this amazing program. So I hope you'll enjoy it.
Great. Well, thank you, Jana. Well, today we're pleased to be joined by J.K. Burwell, who's the school librarian at Graham Hill Elementary, along with Ruman, who is an 11-year-old who just graduated from Graham Hill Elementary, to talk a little bit about the Global Reading Challenge. So this year, the Global Reading Program celebrated its 25th anniversary, and every year it engages about 4,000 to 5,000 students across Seattle Public Schools in a citywide reading challenge. Ruman and J.K. have graciously agreed to join us this afternoon to talk a little bit about the program. So Ms. Burwell, we'll start with you. And if you could just tell us about the role of the school library in a child's education.
The school library means freedom to our students. They are in a classroom all day long being told what they need to learn by teachers. Teachers are being told what they need to be teaching, and then there are tests at the end to see if they both did their jobs. When our students walk into the library, they have the complete freedom to choose whatever they want, whatever their interests are, whatever they would like to read. And I do have a little insider tip for you, is the way I get my reluctant readers to read is that I ask them if they would come later and help me shelve books. And of course, yes, they will. So they come in, I give them the cart, I show them how to shelve the books. And the next thing I know, they're picking up books off the cart and they're looking at the covers, they're opening their books, they're sitting down, they're starting to read. And that is much more important to me than any shelving that could get done.
Ruman, well, welcome. And can you tell us a little bit about Miss Burwell and your library?
Miss Burwell is my elementary teacher, my librarian to be specific, and she's helped me throughout my elementary school years, and I really appreciate her. And the library is a place where you can go read books and have a fun time.
And how did you get involved in your school library?
Well, in second grade, Miss Burwell asked me to come and help her in the library, and I said yes, and I helped her, and that really exposed me to more books, and I began to like reading more books.
And then in the fourth grade, you entered the Global Reading Challenge. And can you tell our viewers what that program is?
The Global Reading Challenge is a contest where you compete against your school first about these 10 books that you read throughout the 4 months, and you compete and you see whoever wins. And then after that, you go against the other schools that went against each other, and then you see who wins. My team is called the Bookmasters. We're a team of 7, and together we read the books and we discuss like what happened in the books, and like sometimes we answer some trivia questions. And when we get to like the school competition, it's kind of exciting because we get together and like we're like, oh, is this answer right or wrong? Oh my God, I forgot what was that. Or it was really exciting and funny at the same time, and it built our relationship together.
So Ms. Burwell, tell us a little bit about the library and the school partnership.
The library-school partnership is critical. We could not do this without you, I will tell you that. It's fantastic. We get a lot of support from the library. We get the books from the library. They give us the funding to be able to hop on Metro and take our winning teams downtown. And we also do a little field trip around that. And they also help us with bringing in authors too. One of the things that the library does that I particularly like is they fund authors that we cannot possibly fund to come and talk to our students. And mainly these are authors of color. And the students get to see the authors, their perspectives, how they do what they do, and maybe they can do the same thing.
So Ruman, tell us about some of the books that you read in the Global Reading Challenge and what you liked about them.
The book Dash taught me about Japanese internment during World War II, and the book is about a Japanese American girl from Bainbridge Island who is separated from her dog Dash while in prison at camp. Because of this book, I asked Miss Burwell about Pearl Harbor, and she gave me some books, and I read them too.
Great. And another book that you liked, I understand, was called Kiki and Jock. Can you tell us about that one?
Kiki and Jock is about a soccer player named Jock who becomes friends with a girl named Kiki. Kiki comes from Somalia, like my mom, and she also wears a hijab like I do. Seeing the book cover of Kiki and Jock is the first time I've seen a Muslim girl wearing a hijab on the cover.
So Ms. Burwell, tell us a little bit about kind of the long-term impact of the Global Reading Challenge and how does it prepare students for later in life?
The Global Reading Challenge is an exciting, and it comes at a critical point in a student's development. At the Seattle Public Schools, we have a target of all students will be at grade level reading by 3rd grade, okay? So Global Reading Challenge comes at 4th and 5th grade. So by then, students are already developing their patterns. They're developing their reading habits. And the Global Reading Challenge gives them a way to express that. And because of the carefully selected books, we hit all the different reading levels for these children. Why this is so important is because many kids want to compete, okay? Particularly the boys. And 4th and 5th grade, if you can make that shift, if you can incorporate competition somehow into reading, that is beautiful. And that's what the Global Reading Challenge has done. Because these kids will compete, they win, and it's through reading, not through sports, that's happening with the Global Reading Challenge. And it gets them hooked for life. I can tell you, this year was a dream for me because we had more boys than girls competing in the Global Reading Challenge. And that shows me that reading is getting cemented in their education, and that is a lifelong skill that will inform them for decisions from now and forever.
So why is the focus on the diversity of the book selection so important at a school like Graham Hill?
Well, our school is very mixed. It is a third African American, a third Latinx, and then the other third is a mixture of Caucasian and Asian students. And a third of our school are English language learners. In fact, in our Global Reading Challenge team that won this year, 4 out of the 7 children, English was not their first language. So the kids need to see themselves in these books. They need to see that people like them are not only writing, but they're writing about things that matter to them. And chances are it will matter to these students too. You know, a lot of times kids will come back and they'll say, gosh, I would have never read this book. I would have never picked it up, but it's really good. And so we get to expose them through the Global Reading Challenge to a wide variety of perspectives that they may never have had.
And Ruman, Ms. Burwell took you and some of your fellow students on some field trips related to the Global Reading Challenge. Can you talk about those?
Yes. One of the books were called Who Was Bruce Lee, and Ms. Burwell got us to go on a field trip to the New York Museum. We learned about Bruce Lee and how he was when he was younger and how he got interested in books just like me, and he became better in school and eventually went to the University of Washington and later became more famous.
Awesome. And Ms. Burwell, why are those field trips so important?
Because, Brian, our students live less than 10 miles from many fabulous things in Seattle. And chances are they never get out to get to see, they don't even know they're there. We go, when we went down to the International District to the Bruce Lee exhibit at the Winnie Luke Museum, we also walked throughout the International District and we talked a little bit about the history and the internment camps. And year before last, excuse me, I also took them to Suzzallo Library at the University of Washington because I wanted them to see it. I wanted them to experience the campus. And there was a little boy who, he was a challenge. He was a challenge in the classroom. He was a challenge in the library. He was a challenge on the playground. And on this field trip, something clicked for him. We got back on the bus and he proudly announced to his friends, I am going to the University of Washington when I grow up. And right then and there, that would have never occurred. That door would have never opened for him if it hadn't been for Seattle Public Library Foundation, all the opportunities you provide for schools like mine. So it's very important.
Great. And are there other ways that the Global Reading Program helps your school?
Absolutely. They provide us the books, number one. We have no budget at my school. I am only a part-time librarian. That's all I'm funded for. And with no budget, it's however I can get books. So I'm very grateful to Seattle Public Library for giving us this opportunity to get all these fabulous books in our library, which we keep year after year. Students read them multiple times. And also the library funds, Seattle Public Library funds authors of color for us, and particularly for Title I schools. Last year, over 8,000 schools, or over 8,000 books were distributed to schools like mine. And we were actually able to have a lot of authors of color speak to our children.
Ruman, tell us how your team did in this year's Global Reading Challenge.
We won the first competition between our school, and then we won the semifinals too. It was really fun. But the COVID shutdowns forced the library to shut down the last competitions. We're co-champions with the 7 other teams.
Great. So lots of winners around the Seattle Public Schools. That's awesome. So you've graduated from elementary school and now you're off to middle school. What are your hopes and dreams for the future?
I want to attend either Harvard University or the University of Washington and become a senator that can help the people. Be sure to vote for me.
Great. Well, you've got my vote for sure. So, Ms. Burwell, what would you say to library supporters who are helping to make this program possible?
I would say thank you. You have no idea of the ripple effect that your donation has. And I, for one, am very, very grateful. And I know other librarians across the city are extremely grateful to you too. Because of you, our students get opportunities that they would never be able to have. Like I said, we have no funding. And so your donation definitely goes a long way. And I will leave you with one thing. If you want to know the secret of libraries and the secret that all librarians know, I would encourage you to check out this book. It's called Property of the Rebel Librarian. On the back it says, I'm a middle school nobody who's never gotten in trouble a day in my life. And all of a sudden, I'm bad news. The secret is on page 236. I hope you check it out. And thank you very much.
Great. Ruman and Ms. Burwell, thank you so much for being with us today. So now we'll send it back to Jana and MT to kick off our Q&A session. Thank you.
First off, let me just say thank you for being here. Thank you to Brian, JK, Ruman, the team. To start, MT, could you talk, there's a few questions that are coming in. Since we've been talking about schools and the amazing work that happens with the Global Reading Challenge, we've all now heard that schools fall, they're going to be remote learning. What can you share about the library's role in curriculum support, or what the kinds of things that we think the library will be able to do to support the students this fall?
Sure. So I think there are several things that we're trying to do. The first thing that we're trying to do is reach out to the school district and understand what their curriculum, well, what their actual program of service is going to look like. We know that it will be virtual, or at least that is what they are proposing. So we know that we'll be thinking in that realm, and then we'll want to just understand what their curriculums will look like, where are they trying to provide their focus of equity for their schools, and then understanding what we can do. Right before we started, as you were talking about the prep work that we do to make sure these go off smoothly, I was talking with Ms. Burwell about the work that the librarians are going to do in the schools, and we're looking for a way for me to talk to her or have some of our staff talk to her to understand how the schools will access and support the curriculum that the schools are doing, but also the students. So we'll want to focus our attention in those arenas and look to see what we can do specifically through access to the materials and collection, support for some of the virtual curriculums that they're doing. We'll still continue to play that role of the informal learner, informal learning period. We like to take claim of that. Schools having formal learning, we take the informal learning. So we'll be looking to see what we can support when the kids are out of school. Yeah.
All right. There's a question that's come in, and before I put this one to MT, just to remind anyone, if you have a question that you want to put to MT, or even JK is accessible here, we will be able to get her in the loop as well. Just go ahead and use the Q&A button and go ahead and share the question you have. And one of the questions that's come in is from Arthur, and it's he's, as an adult tutor and a donor, what's going to happen with adult tutoring at Central Library? And especially given how it is, you know, that program is such an equity focused program and we're helping so many people. What do you think could happen in terms of tutoring remotely and the technology?
You know, here's where the 700 staff colleagues that I work with will say, don't say anything or don't overpromise yet. So
Sure.
offer my apologies. But what I can tell you is that we are looking to do a couple of things. The first thing that we're trying to do is make our collection available to the public. So we're trying to receive all of those 415,000 items that were checked out. Certainly we have to quarantine them for 3 days to ensure that the virus is not on them, get them back on the shelves. Once we can get them back on the shelves, we're in a position to start curbside service where we can pull books and have patrons pick them up, place them on hold, and then pick them up. So that's the first thing that we're trying to do. The second thing that we'll try to do is we'll try to make sure that our access to our technology is there through our Wi-Fi hotspots where we can continue circulating for the general public to make access to. We're also then hopeful that by that time there will be some more guidance coming from the governor's office and the city to understand how we will be able to enter back into phases. One of the challenges that the libraries have is that we are limited in the number, reading forward, what is being proposed is that we will be limited in the number of people who can enter our libraries at a given time. So we'll have to think about that. That being said, any of those opportunities where we can look for one-on-one services that we can do, we're certainly going to try and see what we can do with that. But all of it hinges on how the governor allows us to reopen our libraries.
Yeah, and certainly there's a big discussion at play across the city around recognizing that COVID has shown us all there was a digital divide, but it is deep, and a lot of efforts going into what can we do to start to address that. I know that within the city, you're active and you have staff that are active in the focus of trying to figure that out. The work around getting Wi-Fi hotspots or devices into the hands that need it most. I know one of the new projects the foundation is funding is there are 50 insecurely housed families at the World School. And so the library, through partnership with the nonprofit that works within World School, will be providing internet access to those families and all kinds of support this fall going into the school year. And I know that's 50 families and there are a lot more than that, but if we, in partnership, can identify the families who need the help, it seems like we can find ways to be able to provide that help and be part of that solution. And so, you know, it's a little pieces at a time, but we're going to support you and help you make this all possible.
Well, we really appreciate that. And you know, it is the small steps at a time, and those small steps add up, and we'll realize how far a distance we've traversed at the end of this. But our frontline staff is out there still talking to the community, still talking to agencies and trying to find out what their needs are and bringing that back to us to try to figure out how we can support and help. So yes.
Well, so I'm doing a little bit of a time check here. It's 5:51, and I know we were aiming to be done around 5:45. We've got a few more questions. So I just want to, before people start to go off to make their dinner, I just want to say thank you to all the donors who have signed in. We still can stay on to answer some questions for you, and but just do feel free if you want to step away and go about your evening. One of the questions that has come in is related to the Friends of the Library. I think people know that the Friends have discontinued their sale, and so what will be happening with all those donated materials, and what's the plan?
Sure. So working with the Friends, we were saddened to see that they had to end this, but COVID did bring into the Friends program. So one of the things that we've been doing is working with them to figure out how we can support them as they transition, and their transition is multi-leveled. One of the things that they're doing, as you might know, is that they were preparing for their big book sale. So most of the materials that were going to the book sale had already moved out of their spaces and was in holding to get access to the space at Seattle Center. Once that decision was made to close that program down, the Friends focused their efforts on trying to sell as many of those materials as they possibly could. So they spent time selling that, as well as some of the items that had started accumulating in their office spaces. So they've been doing that. They're trying to, and they're doing a very good job of selling those items. Once they sell those items, any of the remainders will be brought to the Friends shop. So people will be able to pick them up through the Friends shop. And I know that the Friends shop is working certainly on their curbside service and online presence. So that would be one of the ways that they could do that. One question that you didn't ask, Jonah, that we get all of the time right now is, when can people start donating materials back to the library? And we're going to take a different approach with that, where we'll be working with a vendor to remove those materials from the collections and to receive materials from donors, but we haven't quite figured that out yet. Give us a couple of months and we'll be doing that. And in fact, I have stacked up about 50 books in my own place right now that are just waiting for donations to start up again, because I do want to give to them, because the money's come back to the library to help support building more collections. So there you go. I have my stack getting started.
Hey, here's an interesting one. So Nadia, who is part of the community engagement team, there's a shout out to her that she has been essential in getting Wi-Fi hotspots to my students. Doesn't that warm your heart? I love that.
It really does. And Nadia is amazing. And one of the things that I can say is I haven't seen many of the staff during this closure, but on 2 occasions when I was going up to Capitol Hill to visit that restroom facility, I've walked up on Nadia, of all of the people, and she is still out there doing work every day. So I know what she means to this community, but so do all of the other 700 staff that I work with.
Well, it's different work, going from being a big retail operation and becoming a virtual business. It's been something to watch. And you've got a crew of ambassadors, people who are just really game to make things work. And, there's nothing that compares, I don't believe, in government to how well the library, how you can adapt. And you're adapting and you're making stuff happen and you're figuring it out. So it's good work. Now, I have a couple other things that are coming in. I want to see, it looks like maybe there's another question here about donations targeted to South End schools where resources are limited. And I would love to answer that to say many of the gifts and support that the foundation provides to the library, it comes with an equity focus. And I think for years the board has said, let's help the library get the materials into the hands of the kids who need the most. And with the equity work that our library is doing, the foundation has very much been supporting that work and providing the resource so that they can target the services to meet the kids, meet the families who are in greatest need. And so just rest assured as a donor, know that you are ensuring that the people of Seattle who have the greatest barriers and need the most support, who are using the library, really are being supported because of donors. And there's just no way the library could do as much as it's doing without that support.
Mm-hmm.
You know, JK is, I want to see if JK, if you're game for joining us here, do you want to answer and talk? There she is. Ah, there you are. I understand that you are part of the material selection for Global Reading Challenge. Is that correct?
That is correct. This year, it's interesting, Jonna, because this year is a little bit different. Jenny Craig, who heads up the Global Reading Challenge program, she realized very quickly that because our students weren't able to finish out the year, that they were going to be a bit behind where they normally are in their reading levels. So she made a very conscious effort to present to us books that were not quite as challenging as they have been in the past and have a little bit lower reading levels for different skills, which we greatly appreciate because these kids, we want them to be successful. And we also make a very determined effort to have books from many different cultures, a lot of historical fiction that is, is very good these days. And we wanted to capture the kids, some graphic novels too.
All right. All right. You know, I really want to say thank you to you. This is not meant to be last but not least. You have been such a library proponent and supporter of global reading and engage your students. Thank you for all of that good work and really helping be an ambassador for Global Reading Challenge.
We could not do this without all of you. Thank you so much. And John, if you don't mind if I just say that the librarians at the different branches have been fabulous in supporting us this summer, making sure that kids know all of the programs that are happening and they get the latest information. So we're very grateful. Thank you.
Oh, we appreciate it. The partnership, and I know MT, one of the early things that he wanted to accomplish is to make sure that every public school had the opportunity to be part of Global Reading Challenge, and it's really grown to be something pretty magnificent over the years. So I think with this, that is just finishing with you. It's a high note, JK. Thank you for joining MT and I, and thank you for, you've been so willing to just participate. Ramon is just a treasure, and thank you. And I really just could only wish, the only difference would be is if we could have all been together in a room over a meal and to meet you in person. But thank you for everything and doing what you're doing. And MT, I also wanted to say thank you for your leadership. And with that, I think I'm going to say we'll sign off. I do want to finish by one last thing to say to my team. Well done. These are so difficult. And when this stay-at-home order is over, we will have mastered the technology. And just know that I appreciate all you're doing to pull this kind of stuff off, because it is not easy and it's not for the faint at heart. So thank you, everyone. And donors, thank you so much for your support and being part of this. With that, I want to say have a great evening and keep on reading. Keep on downloading those books. So long, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.